Okay, welcome to the Crow Show. So we have seen a huge increase in the number of UFOs and identifiable objects that are transiting the moon. This began at the lunar eclipse in April 2014, and it's still going on. To put this in perspective, I filmed more objects transiting the moon in a single night than I had in the previous 2 or 3 years. Um, I'm going to cover some of the important things I think are going on, and I'm going to try to address why I think this is going on. And I'm going to start by showing you the sky that night and talking about the manipulation that happened during the eclipse and the media manipulation that ran up to the eclipse. Anyhow, here we go. Okay, so here we are the night of the eclipse that happened in April 2014. Some interesting things happened running up to this eclipse. If you remember, the media was really pushing this blood moon idea. So I've put Stellarium up here for a couple of reasons. First of all, a blood moon, the proper use of blood moon, before the Romans each month had a name. A moon in the fall time was referred to as a blood moon. It had nothing to do with its color. It was simply because it was fall and the harvest had occurred and now they were going to have to kill animals to get food, hence blood moon. That is the proper usage of the term blood moon. Now, running up to this last eclipse, the media and even Goddard Space Center from NASA was pushing this blood moon thing. And I said then it's kind of like a spell. We had just passed the spring or vernal equinox, and here they are pushing blood moon, which is a fall reference to a moon in the fall. But what's further interesting about this is, as you can see, I'm set up here for about 8 o'clock the night of the eclipse, and it does run from the 14th into the 15th. You can see the moon here in Virgo, as was Mars. This is Mars up here in Virgo. Vesta was also in Virgo. And you can see I've got circled here this little star Spica. Now, Spica is an important star. It's referencing what Virgo is holding in her hand because she rises at the fall equinox, which is harvest time. And Spica, you always look at the etymology of words. If you look at the derivation of the word in Latin, it means ear of grain, and in our tradition, that grain is usually wheat. In other traditions, like Arabic and Chinese, it's an ear of corn that Spica or that Virgo is holding, represented by Spica. Now, also, another interesting thing is that the blue star in the Brazilian flag for the state of Para, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is representing Spica. And also, there's a white stripe on the Brazilian flag, which represents I think it's the zodiacal band, the zodiac. But anyhow, moving back to this, what I'm going to do here is roll through to show how many satellites were in the area. Because what this clip is about is on this night, unidentified objects transiting the moon just shot up. We filmed hundreds, 139 clips. There's about 5 clips with nothing in them, and then the rest have at least 1 or 2, if not multiples. So hundreds of objects filmed this night. This has continued till today. And I'll address, if you want to go out and try to film what's going on right now, I'll tell you how to do it. Anyhow, here we have the moon. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to center it out so the rotation of the sky will not be right. So we're just going to run through seconds, and it'll speed up in a second here. I have all the satellites on. So as we roll through, that steady line of satellites, many of them are geosynchronous, which means they're about 22,000 miles away or something. It just basically means they try to stay over the same part of Earth. So they're looking at the same portion of Earth over a long period of time. So there's a satellite going by that might have been able to transit, and you'll just see we did get a couple. I was on the phone with Dark Sky Watcher, and we ID'd at least 2 or 3 as satellites, but all the rest we could not ID as satellites. Now, to be fair, we should say that we're looking at technology here. We're going to call them UFOs because they're unidentified, but when we say that, it implies that we're looking at alien things. What I am going to say is we're looking at technology, and a hell of a lot of it. And this uptick, to put it in perspective, I filmed from 2012 to 2014, and in this single night, I filmed many more times all the objects I had ever filmed in a single night. I mean, by probably 10 or 15, 20 times as many objects. And every night since then, I have seen the same thing occurring. Dark Sky Watcher, I have spoke to him. He is clocking, I think last time he said something about 300 objects in a night. So what's going on here? Here we are at 9 o'clock. I'm going to speed this up a little more. I'm going to go by minutes. And you'll just have to look careful because they'll streak by. So what you can see is that there's clearly going to be some listed satellites, maybe a handful, let's say as many as 8 that we can identify. There was one that probably transited. Here comes the Eclipse. The rest of these things are unidentified. Are they military? Are they legitimate UFOs? What are they? What I can tell you is what we saw this night was not correct, and I will demonstrate that again with video. When we were supposed to be looking at totality, we were not seeing totality. When we were supposed to see color, we could see it with a camera in our eyes. We couldn't see it with the scope. So there we are. Here we are at about 2:30 in the morning into the 15th. And look, here comes a satellite that looks like it may be a transit. So there it is. Yes, that is a transit. And it's a very slow satellite. So anyhow, I'm going to get into the video now, and I'm just going to start running these objects and talk about what I think this means. Okay, let's look at the anomalies. You're about to see footage through the scope that shows totality just about to occur and absolutely no color. And then I'm going to follow it with a clip that was shot 1 minute after the scope footage that shows the exact opposite. Here's the scope footage. You're almost to totality. There's barely a sliver of light there, and it is completely black and white, not a drop of color. Now, this is low magnification, no eyepiece. We're just simply collecting more light. Here's a clip that was shot 1 minute after the footage you just saw, and there's all kinds of color, which is what my eyes saw. And look how far from totality we are. So the simple act of collecting more light at a slightly higher magnification has allowed us to see the manipulation here, because that's what I'm calling it. It's manipulation. It just does not add up. I'm going to run these side by side. On the right is the telescope just before totality with no color. On the left is a clip that was taken 1 minute later without the telescope, just the camera, and we're quite a ways from totality, and there's all kinds of color. Now, when we start to think what's going on here, and then we realize that I also filmed the lunar wave, is that the source of the manipulation we're seeing here? So, shot sometime between 10:45 and 11, I filmed the wave, and here it comes from the upper right. There's the first wave coming down, and as always, it's in pairs. There's the second wave coming down. I'm going to do this one more time, running a filter so we can get a slightly better view. Here it comes in at the upper right. There's the first wave. And then here comes the second wave. Now, we're going to need to talk about the uptick in objects here. So I'm going to jump over to Stellarium to give you a visual so you understand what we're talking about just for a minute, and then I'm going to show you a parade of objects that were shot this night that we know for a fact were in space. Here we go. Okay, as I begin to run these objects, I want to show you what a half a degree of sky is, which is the full moon. I want to do this to show you that to be able to see this number of objects transiting an area of sky, I want you to be aware of what it actually is. So there is roughly, it's just slightly over a half a degree of sky. So keep your eyes on this little line I just drew and fake like it's an X, and that shows you the full moon, the size of the full moon. Now when I zoom out, that is the area of sky that these hundreds of objects each night are transiting. That's crazy. Look at all this sky, yet they're transiting this one little area of sky occupied by the moon. So I just wanted you to visually understand what a small portion of sky we're actually talking about here. So anyhow, let's take a look at the objects. Alright, here we go with the objects. I'm just going to let them run in the background as I talk. There goes one that's not zoomed. All the rest of them will be zoomed. This is a huge increase of objects, and it's gone on every night that I have shot since the lunar eclipse last month. It's been confirmed in Arizona by Dark Sky Watcher. He got something like 300 or 350 the other night. I don't know what the number was, but it was a lot of them. This is a change. Something has changed. We're looking at such a small portion of sky that to night after night see hundreds of these transits going on. You've got to wonder what is going on. I wonder if these things have to do with the lunar wave I've been filming. I wonder if these things have to do with the manipulation that I have tried to prove the night of the eclipse. A lot of people talk about Project Bluebeam and all these coming hoaxes that are going to happen. I don't know if any of that's true, but I do know that there is so much technology up there, hundreds of these things in a just endless parade, that if I saw something in the sky, I wouldn't trust it for a second until I could confirm it for myself in some way. When I look at the moon now, I don't really trust my eyes anymore. I don't know if I'm looking at the surface of the moon or a hologram or whatever that wave is, a force field, some kind of energy projection. The point is it's technology, and we have not been told the truth. And now to see this much activity in a half a degree of sky, to me, is a red flag. Something's changing, something's going on. I would urge everybody listening that if you have a camera and you have an interest, get out and film the moon whenever you can. The way I do it is I frame the whole moon. That's the best way to do this. Don't zoom in tight or you won't get very many objects. Frame the whole moon and then watch for a few minutes. If you don't see anything, delete that clip or you'll have too much video to save. But at any rate, something's going on here, and I would urge everyone to get out their cameras and be part of this show. So there it is. Hundreds of UFOs still transiting the moon. Started on April 14, and it's still occurring now. So there it is. Cheers.